Welcome back, guys, to the MLG stream covering the Acer TeamStory Cup, Acer against Empire Ense. We're here in game number 4. We saw Scarlet take down Alpha Taja and Braddock back-to-back, but then, of course, Happy took out Scarlet, and now they're putting in... Actually, I didn't see who they put in. Graham, did you see...
That's Innovation.
Innovation, 100%. Okay. I was like, it's either Innovation or MMA, but it's a barcode Terran.
It is unfortunate it's a barcode, and I actually... Because we were both casting earlier today, I kept calling 4GG a slip of the tongue, and that's one of the downsides when you play on a barcode. It's like, as a caster, I don't know about you, I constantly read what's on the screen.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, right, it's Innovation. Like,
The worst is it would be like a barcode mirror, and their colors are both like red and pink or something, and they're both the same race.
That almost happened with Baby Night earlier today, if you recall. I joined the lobby on a barcode and was mannered and swapped over to his real account.
Yeah, we got him to fix it. At least that would have been a PVT, so it would have been not quite as bad as it could have been. But here we are, game number 4. Acer up 2-1 in the upper left-hand location of Star Station. Took one map for Empire Ense. Can he take a second? The blue Terran, Happy.
And his opponent spawning opposite of him in the lower right. He's a barcode, but if you scan that barcode, it's going to read Innovation. And I gotta say, before we do anything in this game, actually, I just want to say, like, maybe I DC, maybe we have bad internet issues, knock on wood that nothing happens. So far, it's been a blast casting with you, man. So very rarely do I get to cast with someone who, I don't know, like, is so smart at the game. And I told my stream before even coming on today, like, I was a little bit nervous, because I knew you were, like, a really smart guy in the first place, but this has been a lot of fun so far, and I hope the rest of it remains that way.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure on our end as well. Definitely, you're one of the most experienced and skilled casters out there. You've done a great job so far, and we'll continue to do so as we get into this game. And
yeah, another TVT. This one is going to be, I don't know, like, I had a lot of faith and happy to take out Scarlet, but Innovation is hailed as like one of the best players in the world for good reason.
Yeah, he is. He's a tough nut to crack. Now, it's important to note, though, that in the earlier match, Acer against Millennium, Innovation was taken out by a Terran Daishi, so... it could be his maybe today his weak spot. Obviously, he's been very good in TVT in the past. Although I think he's more known for his TVZ. As of late, though, it's hard to tell what Innovation's best matchup is currently.
Yeah, and not to make excuses for him. I mean, I don't need to. It's Innovation. This guy's so good at the game. But he was suffering some lag on the North American server earlier today, and we are back on the North American server right now. So hopefully that does not come into effect as he gets underway here versus Happy. But popping out with the Marine, really important. Happy actually stuck around to see that. Getting denied the gas timings. Usually if you put the quick supply depot down, you're trying to hide something. And sticking around just long enough to see if it was a Reaper versus a Marine with that SCV. Really smart.
And he's actually following this up with a Reaper because he's, I think he's a little suspicious. It could be... he doesn't know if Innovation is going for a relatively fast command center or if he's going like straight to Banshee or some very fast tech play right now. Of course, we know Innovation is going straight for the command center, but Happy doesn't quite yet know that, and this Reaper should identify that. That's kind of his goal.
Yeah, we were talking earlier too about how Reapers have kind of fallen off the matchup, but Happy's saying, nah, I don't care. I'm going to play to the strength of the map. And Star Station is, of course, great for Reapers in the respect that pretty much 3/4 of the base are very easily accessible by Reapers.
Oh yeah, I think it's the only map in the current map pool used in Acer TeamStory Cup, or in fact in any almost professional league, where there's that much room in the main you can jump into. There's no areas that are double high cliffs Reapers can't jump up.
Yeah, Yansu's a very similar, but of course they got that little alley thing. But yeah, aside from that, like, this is pretty much the only map. Because think about Akalon, think about Belshire, they're all very choked off and of course double layered. But 4 Marines aren't going to be too scared of this Reaper. Happy just trying to get scouting for now. Almost got that SCV building the command center.
Yeah, any type of damage he can done get done is going to be great now. Able to get another SCV here, or get his first SCV kill.
First blood.
First blood by the Reapers, and now he's got 2. And of course 4 Marines can take 2 Reapers, but if the Marines try to spread out too much, that's when they could be vulnerable.
Well, the one downside to the Marines, of course, is while they got really nice damage, they don't heal up quite like these Reapers do. Combat drugs are really nice.
That's definitely the huge advantage of the Reapers. You can see here they're retreating and healing up. And you could say, wait a minute, why are they retreating? They could keep picking away at those Marines. Well, Happy knows the timings, and he saw that factory going down, and once Hellions get out, your Reapers can run away and retreat from Marines, but it's a little harder to run away from a guy in like a little speed car here, whatever these Hellions are.
Do you recall when Reapers had the combat awareness too, and they could see up cliffs?
Oh yeah.
Sadly, without that, the danger lies in that if he did jump in back with those Reapers, he would have walked into a clump of Marines.
And 4 Marines can pretty much 3 volley that Reaper, so that's a situation where, you know, even if you're fast enough to jump back really quickly, you might lose the Reaper in the process, and each of those Reapers is pretty expensive units.
Do you see the starports hovering around here, but Happy's not going to be going for attack lab, so no Banshees for him.
Yeah, this looks like he wants to react right units from the starport. Meanwhile, Innovation, his starport just got a medevac, in fact. He looks like he wants to go maybe for a Hellion drop or some type of play similar to that.
Yeah, the elevator up to... This is that same sort of advantage. You know, Reapers can get up to the top of the cliff of these bases earlier. So can the medevac dropping off Hellions. But looks like Happy's going to be content playing mech one more time as the barracks is floated out of his base to take on the role of an Overlord.
And that's a perfect spot for it as well. That's really going to help narrow down the, you know, the angles drops can come in unseen. And of course, as long as he spots that drop, he has enough of his own Hellions. He shouldn't take too much damage. And with 2 Vikings in production, actually, that medevac has to be careful. Now, the barracks didn't spot, I don't think.
No, it certainly did not. I was watching the vision like a hawk there to make sure, and he's going to unload right on top of the mineral line. Now, a missile turret is coming down, but that's not going to stop the Hellions. Viking does happen upon it, though, and Happy responding with his own Hellions, trying to get here in time. Lots of splash damage going off nonetheless. How many workers being killed here? Only actually a small amount of 7.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 is still a lot of workers, but in a Terran versus Terran matchup, for Happy, I don't think that's a big of a deal. If he was going bio, maybe. But when you're playing mech, your minerals are your least concern.
They are. I mean, it's nice to get that 3rd command center a little bit faster, but Innovation didn't only lose the Hellions, he also lost the medevac as well. So that's actually a pretty big blow, losing that fairly important air unit.
And this has prompted what looks to be setting up for a counterattack. One bunker is cool, but if these supply depots are down, Happy's going to run right past everything.
Man, that's a lot of Hellions as well. He's looking to get some payback for his SCV losses. Landing the Vikings help tank.
Oh,
he might not even run past. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Vikings on the ground, absolutely he's going to try and bust this. Vikings, of course, have a ton of damage on them. A lot of people forget this because they're so often useless on the ground, but the early game stages like this, coming in here, they're going to tank a lot of damage, and they're going to deal a lot of damage. This bunker is going to go down pretty quick.
The SCVs! They're all lined up!
They line up so perfectly for the Hellions, but the supply depots do raise just in the nick of time. And now, actually, Happy should not be fighting on this ramp. This is a terrible spot for him to be engaged in. Vikings coming in around on the side. Marauders, of course, dishing out bonus damage versus the Vikings. But this natural base has been evacuated. I kind of wish Happy would just clean up the last couple SCVs that were there, take advantage of his position, but continue to advance in here. We'll pick off the medevacs with the Vikings in the air. These supply depots are burning. And this will actually block, or no, it won't supply block Innovation, but it's not going to be something he wants to lose.
Yeah, you know, Happy really wanted to end the game right there. You could tell he was trying to charge up the ramp. And like you said, maybe were a couple SCVs he could have picked off with the natural, but he just had the bloodthirsty look on him, wanted to end the game. And I think he got damage done. I mean, he did take some pretty, you know, tough losses there, but overall, units lost is still going to slightly favor him.
If Vikings actually landing here now in the main, gonna pick up some more SCVs. He doesn't have to do a lot of damage. He's already done enough, more than enough, I feel. But more Vikings flooding in here. They're just gonna lift up and try and get on out. A total of 11 workers killed so far this game. So Innovation not exactly taking crazy losses. Again, that one heartbeat moment on that ramp, Axlab. If you can imagine, if that volley had gone off on all those SCVs.
You know what was really key there is Innovation realized that if he tried to get all the SCVs back to the main, he wouldn't have been able to raise the depot. The Hellions were too close behind. And so he sent 4 SCVs back to kind of buy time and hold the ramp for an extra second. That was a pretty clutch move. I mean, of course, those SCVs, they get burned in a volley, but it did allow him to get the rest of the SCVs to safety, which is, I mean, that would have been the game, actually, probably, if all those SCVs were taken out.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, too, that if he didn't retreat them, they would have still been killed at the natural anyway. So a very calculated risk, not a panic moment at all out of Innovation. But we do see Happy starting to gear up towards that blue flame. He's starting to get his mech out on the field. He's finally got a lot of factories, too, but only just now establishing his 3rd base. This is a little bit rough because he needed that gas intake already.
Yeah, his mech is definitely behind progression. If you look at the tank count, I mean, in fact, it's non-existent right now. But Innovation is also significantly behind where he'd like to be as well. I mean, his 3rd base is you know, not even done yet. It's about halfway under construction. But you know, the supplies are even, and Happy is pretty much almost all Vikings and Hellions, so this attack could be a little bit tricky to hold off unless he gets a couple tanks in the field. Or actually, wait, if Blue Flame completes, well, there's a lot of Marauders in that composition as well. It's going to be interesting.
So, there's so many Hellions, and the bonus versus armor is only applied against armor, and these Hellions are going to be so fast, they'll get right on top of the tanks. If they take out that bio fast enough, the siege tanks don't stand a chance.
Yeah, it's all about the positioning. The Hellions need to get those big volleys off because the Stim Bio will kill the Hellions very quickly as well. It's like 2 glass cannon units going at each other. But Innovation sees the units. He says, I don't want to try to just charge in there. He's just going to be happy to set up a little bit of a contain instead.
Well, the contain's actually in a bit of an awkward spot. It doesn't cover much of anything threatening unless the Happy moves out of the map. But scans going off to confirm there are siege tanks down there. So what is the Hellion count right now? It's got to be absurd. 26 Hellions currently on the field.
There's almost as many Hellions as there are Marines. That is pretty brutal.
And when you consider the fact that this is splash damage too, all right, Happy is going to be forced to take a bit of a small engagement here. Gets a big spread off, but is it going to be enough? One of the tanks going to go down immediately, and we see that Blue Flame rocking it hard. Coming in from the south, though, the Marauders still standing versus the Blue Flame, but the tanks have, actually gonna, one will survive, maybe? Question mark? No, it gets taken out, but the Vikings landing are gonna fall prey to the Marauders. Innovation getting a lot of damage done with this attack, but also losing his entire army in the process.
Only 2 tanks are left alive, a Corporal and a Recruit, to tell the tale of a very bloody engagement. And I think that engagement went about as good as Innovation as it could possibly have gone. You know, the unit spread was so good there that the Hellions, they really didn't do any splash damage. It's pretty insignificant. And so Innovation's Marauders and Marines were able to get a lot of damage done before they were taken out.
Yeah, kind of absurd actually, because like Hellions, again, those are kind of like throwaway units for Happy. When you're a Becking player, you don't care about your minerals. It's your tanks, it's your Thors, it's anything that costs gas that's important. But by simply having the Hellions thrown away like that, kind of worked out for him. I mean, the resources lost looks fairly even, but with how hard it is for Innovation to sustain his tank count, I would definitely say Happy took the better end of that engagement.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important to note that he took a faster third base. He has additional harvesters. He's up by 10 harvesters over his opponent. I mean, I think ideally he would have not had to land those Vikings and lose those. Of course, he had to, or else he just would have lost everything. But it's much easier to replace the Vikings and the Hellions than it is to really build that tank out. Now he's building 3 at a time, whereas, like you said, Innovation is only building tanks 1 at a time. So him losing his 3-4 tanks there is a big blow to him.
Yeah, and I didn't want to cut you off there, but I want to point out there was a huge significant thing that just happened on the right side of the map. That watchtower, if the Marine was not there, those 4 Blue Flame Hellions would have come in unseen to this third base and killed countless SCVs. So Innovation, regardless of how this game's going for him, has still got the map control under his belt. He's maintaining watchtower control. He's not letting up for an instant.
I think he learned from that game against Daishi where the giant army caught him off guard there.
Oh man, that was such a side swipe is the only way to describe that. If you guys didn't see that, I highly recommend you go back and check that out. But
it was a pretty brutal attack. Not only were the upgrades in Daishi's favor, but Innovation was just not even aware that the army was there. But this game, his map awareness, like you said, is just excellent. He has both his watchtowers. Happy, you know, Happy's kind of stuck in a little bit of a defensive posture, but you know, he still has, you know, his fourth command center is almost done. Innovation has to start his 4th, so it's not like Happy really needs to be out there and being aggressive on the map.
No, definitely not. But you know, it's kind of funny. We look at the upgrades for Happy right now, actually considerably low, considering Innovation just started his 3-3, and he's only just recently, about a quarter of the way through his level 2 weapon upgrades. That's the only advantage to playing mech in upgrade wars. You don't need a lot of upgrades. A Terran player has to go for all of the upgrades across the board if they play Marine tank. You play mech, you really only need weapons. Armor's a second thought.
Yeah, I mean, if your tanks are being attacked by Marauders, they're going to die pretty quickly anyway.
Yeah.
But as long as you have an attack or 2, the idea is you just kill them all before they get close. We'll see how that works out. Now, I feel like Innovation is trying to catch Happy off guard. He's pacing back and forth outside central turret range. At the very least, I think he's looking to maybe slow down a potential 4th base from Happy.
Well, this is kind of cool. He's actually putting his own sensor tower down in a very aggressive location, and this is going to actually allow him to know when Happy moves out with his army. Not something I think I've ever seen to date, an aggressive sensor tower.
This is really important if you don't have air control, because in tanks versus tanks, of course, tanks can shoot further than they can see. So if your opponent has the air control, they can slowly creep tanks up and catch you off guard unless you constantly scan, and you don't want to be scanning every 2 seconds. So having that sensor tower will tell him, do I need to scan? Is he charging my line? or what's going on in that direction.
Well, what's going to be a little important here, actually, we're going to take the engagement. He scans forward and sees there's only a small amount of tanks here. We'll drop Hellbats right on top of the tanks. The army from Innovation forced to stem from behind, but the tanks have been taken out. And now there's only 2 tanks left in the army of Innovation, and it's going to force him back entirely. Happy, he just dominates this part of the map is the bottom line.
Yeah, a great move. You know, he poked him with Blue Flame Hellions at the 4th base of Innovation. Innovation responded with his entire army. Oh, but here he's coming in again. The tanks are slightly late to siege for Happy, but there's still so many of them.
The Thor's actually going to kick some ass here. The Vikings have completely wiped out the medevac count, so there are no more medevacs on the field. Every stem becomes a little more costly because you got to match up to the fact that Happy's got about 12 tanks with splash damage. Sorry, 14 tanks with splash damage.
It's a pretty brutal tank count here. Of course, the hellback count's been decreased, which means tanks are at their front. They're a little more vulnerable, but there's still so many of them in siege mode.
I'm surprised he didn't land the Vikings at this point. Happy, I think, could have taken this a little bit more decisively, but instead, barely going to win the fight here in the middle of the map.
He's slowly inching his way forward. Of course, Innovation is rallying units desperately. If Happy can gain more ground, about another screen of ground, that's going to make him close enough he can cut off Innovation from his 4th base and take out that 4th base. And Innovation does not want to be cut off from his 4th base. He really wants to hold this sensor tower, or excuse me, the Zelnaga tower, a very important watch turret here for Innovation.
He's just, the really unfortunate thing for Innovation is despite the Marine counts, he's just never going to get the air control from these Vikings. And because of this, Happy's just going to keep constantly not needing to scan. But we see both players scanning left and right just to be safe. And Siege Tank for Siege Tank, Marauder for Marauder. And it's kind of a bit of a wash, I think is the only way to describe this. Look at the resources lost. There's less than like 200 resources differentiating these 2 players.
Yeah, super even engagement there. I think Happy may have had the lead early on, but he perhaps overextended when he... You know, once the mech player loses all their Hellbats, or loses most of them... Oh, this is a huge move here.
Yeah, gonna catch 2 of them, and sadly doesn't get the ones that have really a lot of units in them, but even if he boosts away, Happy's fully aware that this drop is coming. He's probably gonna split his Vikings, or not.
Actually,
okay, he's just gonna keep going with the army.
Yeah, he's saying, you know what, Innovation has less units right now in his main army. As long as he's aware that those medevacs are there and he can use his rallied forces to defend.
He's also got a massive turret ring back at home, so he's not too afraid of these drops, I think.
And no, in fact, those are queued to go up and over a lot of those turrets. Meanwhile, Happy comes in at this angle, takes out the potential 5th command center of Innovation, and moving over to threaten the 3rd base. Of course, Innovation defends that, but meanwhile, the medevacs are coming in, but those turrets, one medevac doesn't even get a single unit out.
There's no more turrets, though. There's 1 turret in the main, but this one... Here come the Vikings. Only 4 Marauders inside it, or not even, sorry, 2 Marauders and a Marine get out.
Gets a single tank, maybe a Hellbat, but otherwise cleaned up a fairly failure of a drop there for Innovation. But Happy did back away, so now both players are still kind of pacing up and down the map, trying to find an opening.
Yeah, my big question is, does Happy make the risk to try and go Sky Terran? You'll sometimes see some meching players still try and pull that off in TVT, but the reality is your strength, it really lies in those factory units.
Yeah, I mean, now that one of the upgrades is shared, the armor upgrade, so that's going to help him a bit if it does go for Sky Terran. But look at this, Innovation swinging around the left side, getting a lot of damage on here with this Marauder force. Happy was caught unprepared, and this is why those Zelnaga towers are so important on all the sides of the map.
Yeah, incredibly critical. Sneaking in there just barely out of the range of the Watchtower. And if you had seen this coming, well, actually, Innovation is going to use this to open up a pathway to the Northern Watchtower and claim this from Happy. So Happy now playing...
He's being outmaneuvered a bit here by Innovation.
It really is.
It looks like it might be almost a pseudo base race type situation. Is Happy going to try to corner this force, or is he going to go for the attack on the base of Innovation? Meanwhile, Happy's planetary fortress is going to fall down. There's nothing you can do to save that. It looks like he's just going to counter Innovation's fourth.
Music to my ears when I hear a base trade, Axel, because, well, that's not my name, but it's also incredibly intense watching this happen. Planetary Fortress can do what it can here for Innovation, but looks like both players just going to knock each other's base up, but Innovation actually not going for the full trade, coming back home.
You know, that's not a bad idea. Happy did have a decent tank spread here. Would have been kind of painful.
So cool, dropping a people at the Watchtower to get that vision, but the tanks will siege up before Innovations just slightly, and because of that, Happy will take the initial engagement here. But there's so many Vikings that need to land. They're going to soak a lot of damage, but looks like it might not be enough. The Hellbats were not tanking, buffering for the tanks, but instead pushing into the natural, and because of that, Happy loses everything.
Yeah, you know, I feel Happy may have been able to come on top of that if he had the Hellbats in front of the tanks, but he was really caught off guard. He was kind of sideswiped by Innovation's army, and all his tanks went down, and now he's in a situation where he lost his 4th base. Sure, he killed Innovation's 4th, but Innovation has already reestablished a 4th at a different location.
Happy actually completely mined out of the main, completely mined out of the natural, barely mining on the 3rd, has no way to remax his army supply. And Innovation, he might not have a huge bank, but bio is certainly cheaper than mech.
Oh, absolutely, and it's kind of funny. You can tell how hard of a time Happy has bringing the minerals because he's got 1,400 gas, and when you kill mech, normally it's the gas that's a limitation, but he just doesn't have any minerals to mine from. That 4th base was so important for him. He's going to try to reestablish it, and he's not out of the game by any means. If he can defend his 4th, then he's going to be right back in the game, but it's going to be a very hard defense. If you look at the Army Values tab, Innovation is ahead by a decent amount.
Oh, a little more than a decent amount, I think, because he's still got tanks in his army, which is key. Happy, who was producing like mad earlier, does have a lot of tanks, but the Vikings have been the key part of Happy's army. If Innovation had been able to drop on these tanks with Marauders, if he had been able to get past these Vikings, Happy's tanks would absolutely crumble. So keeping these 4 Vikings alive, not kind of just sending them to their death to chase the medvacs, incredibly important right now.
Oh, it's Happy. He almost walked into a whole lot of siege tanks.
So close.
I mean, that's not something he could have survived. I mean, he was going siege tank first. He probably lost about 4 or 5 of siege tanks before he even knew what was going on. And I think he feels he has to make something happen because he's still having a hard time producing units. But if he commits too far, there could be a flank here.
Yeah, he's been kind of backed into a corner is the only way I could really describe this, but trying to take that corner, the fight to the other side of the map. He does get some nice siege tank volleys off initially, but Innovation will use this to push into the most important, most recent mining base of Happy, and he's going to lose everything here in the north. The SCVs are going to try and retreat out, but actually with only 3 Marines for anti-air, this command center will live.
And the command center will survive, but meanwhile, Happy's push continues to go towards Innovation's bases. He's able to start harassing one of the 4/5 bases with some Hellbats, but he's lost all his Hellbats to tank his army. He has to be very careful when he moves his tanks around. And meanwhile, his 3rd base looks like it's going to crumble here to Innovation's main army.
And the big thing was there were tanks at home to defend for Happy, but the Marauders were dropped on top of them. The Vikings have taken out the medevacs, but the tanks and Marauders pushed through. And if Innovation gets on top of the production of Happy, he's already starving for resources. He's not going to be able to make any more units.
Oh, there's only a couple siege tanks here to defend. Innovation crushes forward, sieges up his own tanks, just blasts Happy's forces to pieces.
Happy literally has 0 income right now. There's no way for him to make anything. This push, this army he has within the base of Innovation is his last hope in the game. There's SCVs that are long distance mining, but they're about to run into siege tanks. He's not controlling his SCVs. He's going to lose every single SCV.
Oh no, a couple retreat in time to save themselves, but it's the last remnants of Happy's economy.
Look at the workers lost this game too, by the way, just for both players. Like, ridiculous.
It's been not a good game to be a civilian in, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. But the sad thing is Innovation took some damage at the front of his main, but was never really cracked. His production wasn't harmed. There's a planetary here. I don't know that Happy could do enough damage. He's spreading his siege tanks out to get better cover fire on this planetary, but that's going to open them to a flank from the south, and Innovation kind of sees this coming with that Bioforce. One big stim could end everything.
Oh yeah, Innovation has been able to macro up a secondary army from his main. Yes, he loses the planetary, but there's very little to tank for Happy, and Innovation's not really going to charge into the siege tank line. There's not too much of a reason, but as soon as they unsiege, if he can catch that, with this many Marauders, they're going to close the distance so fast with those tanks and just obliterate them.
This game was close at so many points, but looks like Innovation will finally decisively take a victory as these tanks go down. Good game is called, and Innovation will bring it back for Acer.
Wow, there he goes. So he's actually, that's going to put Acer up 3-1. Of course, Scarlet took down 2 wins, defeating Alpha Tashi and Braddock. Happy took down Scarlet, but could not continue his chain of victories, falling to Innovation. So Empire has got to come up with another player who can beat Innovation. I mean, I guess it has to be Cass at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Cass goes down, they can resurrect somebody, maybe, but again, who do you bring back? Someone who's just lost to Innovation, or do you? It's not an easy choice.
I think you'd have to bring back Happy. I mean, he did lose, but he put up a heck of a fight.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't want to be in Acer's shoes right now trying to decide. That much is for sure.
It's going to be tough. We'll see who they decide to put in next, of course. Coming up next is going to be Acer versus Empire, game number 5.